As I surveyed the almost empty room, I asked, "Are you ready to go yet?" My companion let out a heavy sigh. "Just waiting for the movers," they replied, relief tinging their voice. "Honestly, I won't miss you much, and the way you changed the locks, as if I'd ever try to break in, was a bit excessive." I had often wondered about the need for such drastic measures, but now it felt almost trivial. When I first met Kevin, he was a quiet man, always preoccupied with how others viewed him. After we married, he transformed into the classic henpecked husband. Just a week after I moved into my new place, Kevin showed up, panicked and pleading. "It's me! Open the door!" he implored. I feigned ignorance, meeting his urgency with a deliberate aloofness. "I'm Carol, 34 years old, working part-time 4 days a week. It's been 3 years since Kevin and I tied the knot. We don't have children, but I still believe we could find happiness together." In the early days of our marriage, we spent long nights dreaming about our future. Both of us were new to love, cautious yet hopeful, and I genuinely enjoyed our time together. "Let's be that couple that grows old side by side," I suggested one evening. "Yeah, I like that idea. Maybe, 3 kids, a boy and a girl?" he replied. "That's exactly what I was thinking," I agreed, savoring those light-hearted exchanges. They were a breath of fresh air to someone like me, who had little interest in love or marriage. Our meeting had been unexpected. I attended that party out of obligation rather than excitement, and he seemed to be there for the same reason. We quickly connected over our mutual disinterest, slowly becoming friends. He was serious and somewhat reserved, but his kindness captivated me. Then, out of the blue, he proposed. "Carol, will you marry me? I want to make you happy." "What? But we're not even dating, right?" He accepted his own proposal with unwavering conviction. His unexpected question didn't push me away. Rather, it sparked a contemplation of what life with him could be like. "If you're okay with it, then yes, I accept." The joy on his face was unmistakable, and in that moment, I remembered how life often throws us these unforeseen twists of fate. When Kevin proposed, I genuinely believed that marrying him would lead to a happy future. We rushed into marriage, tying the knot just 2 months after our first meeting. Given our limited romantic experience, our journey was sometimes awkward, but that clumsiness added a unique flavor to our adventure. However, about a month after we moved in together, I began to see a stark contrast between my expectations and the reality of our marriage. One day, Kevin approached me with a seriousness I hadn't seen before. "Carol, there's something we need to discuss," he said, his tone unusually grave. I was taken aback when he suggested I consider quitting my job to become a homemaker. This request caught me off guard. He had never voiced any dissatisfaction with my working before, and it marked the beginning of a perplexing shift in his demeanor. "Why would you ask that?" I replied, confused by his sudden request. "When you work, it makes me feel unneeded," he confessed, his vulnerability surprising me. "Did someone put this idea in your head?" I asked, trying to grasp the root of his sudden insecurity. "No, but at my company, all the other men's wives stay at home. That's just how it is," he explained. I had been clear from the beginning of our marriage that I planned to keep working, especially since saving money was vital for our future. Kevin's new insistence baffled me, but we had agreed I would continue my career after we got married. Hadn't we? I reminded him of that commitment. "I know, but as my wife, I hoped you'd consider my feelings," he replied, his concern seeming more focused on social expectations than our mutual happiness. "Why not just pretend I've quit? There's no need for me to actually leave my job," I suggested, trying to find a compromise that would allow me to keep my career. But Kevin's worry about others' opinions seemed to deepen. "If things don't change, I'll be ridiculed by my colleagues and bosses," I'm supposed to be the head of this household, aren't I? Please just do as I ask, he pressed, unwilling to entertain my perspective. I can't make such a decision right away. I need time to think about it, I said, feeling the weight of the situation and the need to weigh my options carefully. All right, but please make a decision soon, he urged, urgency lacing his tone. I knew I couldn't let this issue linger. The thought of what might happen if I didn't act decisively was unsettling. Seeking guidance, I turned to my boss, Madison. She had worked as an administrative assistant since high school and had endured a similar experience with a controlling ex-husband, which ultimately led to her divorce. Now a dedicated single mother, she was someone I greatly admired. That must have been incredibly tough, I reflected, contemplating the possibility of divorce as I considered her strength and resilience. In the early days of our marriage, Kevin and I had reached a complex crossroads. It's tricky since we're newlyweds, I pondered, weighing the implications of quitting my job. I haven't fully thought this through, but leaving my position would make it hard to find a suitable replacement. I expressed my concerns to Madison, who had become more than just a boss. She was a mentor to me. I don't plan to quit right away, I continued. I'm hoping to find a way to keep working if possible. Maybe we can maintain my current part-time schedule for now. Going full-time might attract too much attention. That's a wise approach, Madison affirmed, supportive of my decision to negotiate with Kevin. If he still objects, we could suggest officially reducing my hours to part-time. That sounds like a sensible plan. Remember, you can always rely on me for advice. I'm here to support you, Madison reassured me, offering a lifeline amid the turmoil of my marital challenges. Thank you. I truly appreciate your support, I replied, grateful for her guidance. Our conversation deepened, revealing that Madison's ex-husband had also undergone a drastic transformation after their marriage, a situation eerily similar to mine. This revelation was eye-opening. I hadn't realized that some men could change so completely after saying I do, becoming almost unrecognizable from the people they once were. Reflecting on my circumstances through this lens, I began to wonder if I had been misled all along. Despite our numerous discussions, Kevin and I remained at an impasse. Isn't it a woman's role after marriage to support her husband and manage the household? He insisted, clinging to outdated norms. What era are you living in, nowadays? It's common for both spouses to work, I countered, taken aback by his antiquated views. Maybe for other couples, but we're different. You see that, don't you? He tried to persuade me. I understand where you're coming from, but I can't agree. I stood my ground, urging him to consider my perspective. Kevin continued to pressure me daily to quit my job. Despite his persistent efforts, I refused to give in. After consulting with Madison, I made the decision to resign officially. However, in reality, I continued working part-time 4 days a week. Thankfully, Madison understood my situation and agreed to reduce my hours. I've resigned from my job, just as you wanted, I told Kevin, steeling myself for his reaction. Keeping up appearances? Really? Thank you. Now I can feel more secure about my position at work, he responded, relief washing over him, completely unaware of the truth. It became clear that Kevin was primarily concerned with how others perceived him. His abrupt transformation left me bewildered, but I chose to deceive him, continuing to work secretly in hopes of preserving both our relationship and my independence. Yet, I soon realized that my hopes for a fresh start were misguided. Even with this new beginning, Kevin continued to assert his dominance, venting his frustrations on me. One day, he made a sudden request. A junior colleague is coming over today. I need you to host, he said without warning. I had no idea, I replied, caught off guard. Sorry, it was a last-minute decision. Just keep it simple, Please, get everything ready. Before I could respond, he hung up, determined to fulfill his request. I prepared drinks and snacks for the guests. However, when Kevin arrived, he was displeased. Didn't I ask you to prepare for today? He chastised. You said to keep it basic, and I thought that's what I did. This reflects poorly on me. I need you to fulfill your role as a wife properly. What exactly does that mean? I did my best. Is there a problem with what I prepared? I asked, genuinely confused by his dissatisfaction. No, not really, he muttered, his expression unreadable, a stark contrast to the man I once knew. From that point on, Kevin began inviting guests over almost every week. While he reveled in the social gatherings, he expected me to always be on standby, prepared for anything. It seemed he was trying to impress everyone with his capabilities as a husband. Kevin, having guests over every week seems excessive, I remarked, feeling the strain of his expectations. I ventured one day. No, it's fine. Everyone enjoys it, and you should support my decisions. That's your duty as my wife, Carol. But maintaining this lifestyle is expensive. How am I supposed to manage it? I asked, my frustration rising. Oh, stop complaining, he snapped, dismissing my concerns as nagging and evading any direct answers. Every morning, I woke up early to prepare meals, make lunch sandwiches, and send Kevin off, all while getting his suit ready for the day. On the days I worked part-time from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. I barely had a moment to rest. Despite the busyness, I cherished my job. Working often felt like a much-needed escape. Carol, you seem tired lately. Are you okay? My coworker Deborah asked one day, noticing my fatigue. Yeah, a bit, I admitted, feeling the weight of my responsibilities. Let me know if there's anything I can do. I'm here to help in any way I can. Thank you, Deborah. You've been such a reliable support, unlike Kevin. Deborah understood the decline in how I was being treated. She knew about my secret part-time job and had kept it hidden from Kevin. I appreciate everything, Deborah. I expressed my gratitude. Bill mentioned it, but I never imagined Kevin would behave like this, she confessed. Neither did I. I've tried talking to him, but he won't listen, and we hardly have a meaningful conversation anymore. I'm sorry. If only I were stronger, I sighed, feeling overwhelmed. Don't be too hard on yourself. You're managing work and household tasks admirably. I appreciate all your help, I replied, grateful for her kindness. Living with Deborah's support had been a breath of fresh air for me, a stark contrast to the strain at home. However, Kevin seemed uncomfortable with how close Deborah and I had become. This discomfort led him to make a shocking and sudden decision. Where's Deborah? I asked one day, puzzled by her absence. Mom's gone, he replied nonchalantly. What do you mean, gone? I questioned, my confusion growing. Mom's getting older, and I thought it would be best for her to be in a facility, he said, as if it were the most casual thing in the world. You actually put her in a home? My voice cracked, struggling to contain my disbelief. Yeah, I just finished settling her into the new place. Now I have the house to myself, he said nonchalantly, as if he had merely completed a mundane task. I was at my parents' house when it happened, and I was shocked that he had made such a unilateral decision to place his mother in a facility. Yes, she was older, but she wasn't at the point of needing full-time care. It became painfully clear that he had sent Deborah away just to reclaim the house for himself. When I visited Deborah at the facility, her expression was a mix of surprise and resignation. I'm so sorry it had to come to this, I said, feeling the weight of guilt. It's not your fault, she reassured me. I never thought he would go this far. I'm scared of what he might do if I resist. I'll miss you, but I'll manage. If you need anything, you're always welcome here, she added, trying to provide comfort in the situation. Thank you, I replied, my heart heavy. Afterward, we moved from our previous home into my in-laws' house. Despite my diligent management of the household, Kevin never acknowledged my efforts or showed any gratitude. The dream of having children, once a topic of eager discussion, now felt entirely out of reach. Kevin often disregarded my presence, preferring to spend his time away from home. He began imposing arbitrary rules, too. No matter how late he returned, I was expected to stay awake until he got back. If I happened to wake up later than him in the morning, he would become upset. What time will you be home today? I asked one evening, hoping for some clarity. I'm not sure. Just stay up until I get back, okay? He instructed. One day, after a similar exchange, I noticed something strange when Kevin returned home. As I took his suit to hang it up, I caught a whiff of a sweet, feminine scent, one that was unfamiliar to me, as I never wore perfume. It was unmistakable evidence of an affair. Whenever he came home late, I'd catch a trace of that same perfume lingering in the air. That evening, he surprisingly suggested I go to bed before him, raising my suspicions even further. Quietly, I slipped into the living room, where I overheard their conversation. Oh, she's clueless. When are you going to leave her? A woman's voice asked. I'll kick her out soon enough, Kevin replied, his tone dismissive. Their voices carried easily, especially the woman's, which was loud and unmistakable. From their discussion, it was clear their relationship had been ongoing for some time. While the incident with the perfume didn't shock me, it left me feeling utterly disgusted. Kevin was still technically my husband, and despite my hopes for a turnaround, his treatment of me remained harsh and unchanging. As we approached the 3-year mark of our marriage, he sprung another surprise on me. I have a business trip the day after tomorrow. I need you to get everything ready, he announced abruptly. That's very short notice, I replied, suspicion creeping into my voice. I'll be away for about 4 days. Please make sure my clothes are prepared, he instructed, as if it were the most normal request in the world. A sinking feeling took hold of me as I suspected that his so-called business trip was merely a cover for time spent with his mistress. I remembered a conversation with a colleague's wife at a company gathering, who had warned me to be cautious if he suddenly mentioned a business trip. 3. Our company doesn't even have those. Her words echoed in my mind as I pieced everything together. My suspicions had been confirmed earlier when I accidentally found a chat on his mobile phone left in the living room, detailing how he had taken paid leave for this so-called trip. This discovery marked a turning point for me and signaled the beginning of the end of our marriage. Armed with proof of his affair, I was determined to confront him with divorce papers upon his return. However, it was Kevin who made the first move. Are you ready to leave? The movers will be here soon, he said coldly. As soon as he returned home, he instructed me to vacate the house before he got back. I need you to be gone before I get back, he demanded. Why are you saying this all of a sudden? I countered, shocked by his blunt directive. That's what I said. You can't spring this on me and expect me to leave immediately. Then I'll wait a bit. But you need to start preparing to leave, he replied, dismissing my objections. Goodbye. I never imagined that my once timid, overly concerned husband would transform into such a domineering partner. This was the final straw. The future I had once envisioned with him now felt like a distant memory. Living with a man like him, I couldn't see a bright future ahead. What comes next? I wondered aloud. This could get interesting. Has the mover arrived yet? No need to rush. They should be here soon, he replied. Oh, And I almost forgot to mention, I'm changing the locks on the house, he added almost casually. All right, got it, I responded, my heart sinking. The thought of not having to see your face again is a relief, he said, his parting words echoing in my mind after nearly 3 years of marriage. Convinced that our relationship was irreversibly over, I swiftly left the premises and instructed my lawyer to file for divorce. Despite the circumstances, my husband boldly posted pictures with his mistress on social media, an audacious move that shocked me. How could he be so reckless, not realizing he was providing even more evidence of his affair? Even our mutual friends noticed his strange behavior, marking the public unraveling of what we once shared. After leaving my in-laws' home, I transitioned back to full-time work and moved into a high-rise apartment in the suburbs, a place I had long dreamed of living. The apartment was spacious and perfect for one, and it felt wonderfully liberating without Kevin's presence. About a month after settling in, I was jolted awake one morning by the doorbell. Peering through the monitor, I was stunned to see Kevin standing outside. Hey, it's me, Kevin. Open up, Carol, he called out, his voice presumptuous and demanding. His sudden appearance and the entitlement in his tone were beyond my comprehension. Deciding to feign ignorance, I figured it might be more amusing than outright rejecting him. Who are you? I'm sorry, but I don't know you, I responded through the intercom. Don't tell me you've forgotten your husband's face. I'm not married. I think you've mistaken me for someone else, I continued, watching as desperation washed over him, his face a shadow of the timid man I once knew. Please just listen, I've been deceived, and I need Carol's help, he pleaded. I'm sorry, but I'm not obligated to assist you. If you persist, I'll have to call the police. Seriously, after all, I don't know you, I retorted, steadfast in my resolve to treat him as a stranger. Kevin must have thought I would always be there to solve his problems, but I was no longer the person who tolerated such dependency. Yet he remained stubborn, unwilling to relent. That's it, you made this mess, so it's up to you to fix it. You don't have to be so tough on me, he whimpered. Oh, and by the way, you can't stay at your parents' place anymore, he added abruptly. What do you mean? Do you know whose name the house is under? I questioned, surprised by his statement. No, but it used to belong to Deborah. Now it's in my name, I explained, revealing a significant change he was unaware of. Kevin had insisted I leave when I confided in Deborah, which visibly upset her. I can't believe my son has turned out like this. I'm truly sorry, especially after all the help you've given us, Deborah had said during one of our conversations. Deborah, you're divorcing Kevin, aren't you? She had asked. Yes, it's for the best, I confirmed. In that case, I'll transfer the house to you, she offered, a decision that took both me and presumably Kevin by surprise. Why would Deborah transfer their rights to their in-laws' house to me? Kevin would have been puzzled by such a turn of events. Unbeknownst to him, he had been living with his mistress throughout this turmoil. That's the situation. Understand and leave promptly, I concluded, shutting down any further attempts at reconciliation or intrusion into my life. We likely won't cross paths again, but I made it clear to him, if he persisted, I would not hesitate to call the police. With that firm warning, he finally relented and left. The divorce proceeded as planned, and I received the settlement we agreed upon. As it turned out, Kevin had been misled and financially exploited by his mistress. Moreover, the divorce settlement amounted to approximately $410,000, and she promptly abandoned him when the money dried up. But I was resolved not to let matters end there. I hired both a lawyer and a detective to ensure that all financial claims against him were thoroughly pursued. Additionally, I was seeking a further divorce settlement claim, aiming for over $22,000 more. Furthermore, the ownership of the house was officially transferred to me. I had insisted that Kevin vacate the premises, and though he initially resisted, legal proceedings left him with no choice but to comply. As for his current whereabouts, I remained blissfully unaware and, frankly, uninterested. His company eventually caught wind of the photos he had posted with his mistress on social media. Unable to endure the scrutiny and the facade of his extravagant lifestyle, Kevin chose to resign voluntarily. This outcome seemed inevitable, given his true character. If I had one last thing to say about the entire ordeal, it would be this: I don't dwell on it. I am divorced now, but I view it as a learning opportunity, an opening to move forward positively. My bond with Deborah endures, and I intend to focus on my career independently while relishing life as a single individual, embracing all the freedom and opportunities it offers.